This is Jed Disler, and welcome to The Piano Maven, your friendly podcast guide to piano recordings. Paid subscribers get downloads at the start of each month and access to Zoom chats, and a new feature that will preview the content of upcoming episodes will be available to paid subscribers. There's a link to my Substack page in this episode's description, and if you click on that link, you can subscribe. So please consider a subscription to help keep the Piano Maven in operation. I want to talk about a release that came out in 2021, which I think was possibly the best piano release that came out in that year. And it features the pianist Kit Armstrong, who is highly, highly gifted. He's also a marvelous composer as well. He first came to my attention for several releases that he did for Sony Classical. And also I knew about him when he was Alfred Brendel's protege. But this 2021 release was Kit Armstrong's debut for Deutsche Grammophon. So far, it's been his only release on that label. I don't know if there are more in the pipeline, but this release is a total knockout. It's devoted to keyboard works by the British Tudor composers William Byrd and John Bull. Now, many pianists have tried this repertoire on the modern concert grand with varying degrees of success. Probably the most familiar recording is the one that Glenn Gould made of pieces by William Byrd, also coupled with pieces by another composer of that generation, Orlando Gibbons. And Alan Feinberg recorded some excellent John Bull on the concert grand for the Steinway & Sons label. But few pianists, I think, have really internalized these composers to the extent that Kit Armstrong does. In the William Byrd works, I think Armstrong digs much deeper than Glenn Gould, and that may sound like heresy, but for all of Gould's stinging X-ray clarity and surface scintillation, Kit Armstrong makes full yet very discerning use of the piano's dynamic and coloristic resources and basically sings out more than Gould. For example, Armstrong takes the William Byrd composition Selinger's Round at a galloping and lilting clip that's nearly twice the tempo of Gould's drier and more uniformly articulated rendition, and he brings more dynamism and drama and vocal orientation to this piece along the way. And in the piece titled Walsingham, Kit Armstrong gives each variation a distinct musical and pianistic character that makes most harpsichord performances of this piece sound generalized and unvaried. One other interesting comparison can be found in John Bull's wonderful Fantasia on a fugue of Svelink. Kit Armstrong opens this piece by creating a kind of veiled, rounded, and rather caressing kind of sound world. But over the course of the piece, his sonority gradually opens up and his attack becomes harder hitting. Now, there's something to be said for Alan Feinberg's broader tempos and more pronounced harmonic pointing, but I think that Armstrong offers more timbral and textural contrast in his interpretation. It's hard to say I like both interpretations, but maybe I do lean toward Armstrong in this piece. And in William Byrd's Ut Mi Re Fantasia, Kit Armstrong's linear control and total independence between the hands sounds as if there are two different pianists playing on two different instruments. And I suspect that if William Byrd had lived to experience the potential of a modern concert grand in his music, he may well have warmed over to Kit Armstrong's interpretations, and maybe he would have put his little virginal keyboard up for sale on eBay. I should add also that Kit Armstrong wrote superb and intelligently insightful booklet notes for this release, and the engineering is absolutely world class. So, if you have not heard Kit Armstrong's Byrd and Bowl release, or you were wondering about it, all I can say is that it went from my reviewer's desk to my permanent collection in record time. All puns intended. And I cannot recommend this release highly enough. This is Jed Disler, and you've been listening to The Piano Maven, your friendly podcast guide to piano recordings. Thanks for tuning in, and I look forward to being with you for our next episode.